Hey everyone, I'm Ryan Reeve Morales, lead producer of Gameplay on League. You might remember me from all those champion roadmaps, but today, for reasons I can't even fathom, they put me in front of a camera again to talk about all of League this time. So buckle up as I dive into some of the champions we have in development. After that, I'm going to pass the metaphorical mic over to Riot Froxon, who is going to talk to you about the recent durability update as well as our plans for preseason.
Show de bola. Vamos aí, campeões de 2022.
So before we get into the new champions coming up this year, let's take a quick look back at the champions we've released in 2022 so far. First we had the speedy ADC Zeri, then the girl boss Renata Glass. After that, the Void Empress herself, Belva. And then most recently, the joyful Neela. And just around the corner, we have the Udyr VGU, complete with a dad bod worthy of the Freljordian gods. Udyr's development has been a long journey, especially since he's been the first VGU that we've done that's had an ultimate skin. We appreciate you all being patient with us on this one, and hopefully the wait has been worth it. So in addition to the new champions we've released this year, we've also been shipping a lot of mid-scope updates to various champions, including Janna, Ahri, Swain, Talia, Olaf, and recently Sivir. Because we slowed down the release of new champions, we've had a bit more time to ship smaller updates to champions on the roster that have fallen behind the pack. So the goal of mid-scope updates isn't to reimagine a champion's visuals, theme, or gameplay. That's reserved for VGUs. Instead, we want to freshen up champions that aren't living up to the expectations of the players who love them. We try to strengthen their fantasy even more, rather than reinvent it. So for Swain, we pushed his fantasy of an unkillable frontline mage to the max. And for Ahri, we focused on her fantasy of a mobile mage, rather than the assassin she had become. We saw really great responses to these projects, as well as healthy play rate spikes after their release. Given all of this, we want to keep pursuing mid-scope updates, and we already have a few champions we're exploring, including Nico and Syndra.
Vamos aí, Novos Campeões.
So now let's talk about some projects I've been super excited to share with you. So later this year, we have a new top lane tank hailing from Shurima, who I briefly mentioned in the last champion roadmap. This new champion will introduce a part of Shurima that we haven't explored yet, the city of Nezuma. Now Azuma is an oasis city-state in the southern outskirts of the desert, and unlike the rest of Shurima, they don't bow to Azir. Situated on one of the only water sources for miles, the people of Nezuma had to compete with giant monsters just trying to stay hydrated. It was a hard-fought struggle, but they eventually claimed the oasis as their own and built their society around it. Now, 500 years later, this new champion leads the warriors of Nezuma to hunt those same monsters, using the rare resources they gained to build their infrastructure and weapons. He actually fought one of the largest monsters the desert has ever known.
Certeza que ele revelou o nome do campeão nessa brincadeira que ele fez aí.
Out of its rare regenerating hide. And tofus are huge, blunt weapons that can be used defensively, but at any moment, he can shatter them, revealing carefully crafted blades, capable of tearing through any foe in seconds. Soon after, the hide will regenerate back to its blunt form, so he can, like, bludgeon the crap out of you. It's honestly quite impressive to see. But you don't have to take my word for it. The entire city-state is basically permanently impressed by him. I mean, he's Kasanti, the pride of Nezuma. You don't get that title for nothing. So after Kasanti, we will be releasing the highly anticipated Aurelion Sol CGU.
Cassante, o nome do próximo campeão.
CGU, or Comprehensive Gameplay Update, is a new type of update we are testing out on Aurelion Sol.
Tá falando sobre Aurelion Sol
so
agora.
The goal is to completely reimagine Asol's gameplay without changing his visuals or narrative at all. Since let's be honest, those aspects of Aurelion Sol are still amazing, even by today's standards. But I know what you're thinking. Less talking, Mr. Reeve, more action. And by action, we mean videos. Okay, fine. Twist my arm a little bit more, will you? Now keep in mind, the visuals are still a work in progress. One of the goals was to enhance his dragon theme. And what do dragons do? Well, they breathe fire, of course. ASO's new Q allows him to breathe fire for as long as he has mana.
Caraca, olha
But
isso,
let's not
galera.
forget the other thing dragons do, fly. His new W allows him to take to the skies, but this time, he doesn't have to walk in a straight line for like, ever.
Legal,
He can now
ok,
fly
beleza.
with the push of a button. But really, let's be honest. He's a dragon. And if there's one thing more iconic than either flying or breathing fire, it's flying while breathing fire, which you can do by combining his Q and W. We did it. So after Aurelion Sol, we have a champion I've been literally dying to talk to you about.
Legal, o rework do Aurelion Sol, ok.
Community hounds me about
Eu gostei.
constantly is wanting to see more
Mais
Darkin
darkin, ok,
Darkin
é
fans
isso.
are like, throw me a freaking bone here. And believe you me, I'm right there with you, barking for some Darkin. Then one night, at around 2:34 a.m., I woke up in a fever sweat. And at that moment, it hit me. I'm on the champions team. If I want more Darkin, I can just talk to the team about it. And gosh dang it, I did just that. And the team was like, heck yeah, we want more Darkin as well. We love Darkin. So yeah, long story short, we're making a new Darkin assassin.
Novo assassino darkin.
So I know what you're gonna ask next. What's the weapon? Each Darkin is trapped in some super awesome weaponry. Please tell us what it is, we must know.
Qual é a arma?
And while I love watching you all squirm beneath my intricate yet vague champion roadmap teasers, I'm not gonna be that cruel today. The weapons are like the coolest part about Darkin after all. So this one was actually entrapped in a dagger, which is now a Darkin dagger, of course, because that's how that works.
Claro.
And here's what it looks like. Ooh, so edgy, so dark.
Essa é a arma do
And
próximo
as for
darkin.
who or what got a hold of these daggers? Well, you'll just have to wait and find out.
Legal.
Another thing a lot of people have been asking to see progress on is the Ahri update that we announced at season
Sim,
start.
a área, claro.
Well, the ASU team has been hard at work and is ready to share some art, like the final composition seen here. The base version is close to complete, and the team is super excited
Então
to show you
essa é a
some
nova
of the
área.
progress on how she's looking in-game.
Tá aí, galera, pra quem queria
Look
saber.
at all those sweet polygons. And here's a sneak peek of her updated VFX. Ahri still has a ton of skins that also need to be updated, so she still needs a little more time in the Foxfire oven before we can get her in your hands. But you can expect to see her sometime early next year. So that's about it for champion news. Though I will leave you with one small thing. On top of wanting a new Darkin, we've seen a lot of players asking us to expand on Ixtal.
Ixtal, pois é.
We've also heard you asking for us to make a male enchanter. Well, I say, why not both? I'm happy to say we have right now, in very early development, a new male enchanter from Ixtal.
Novo encantador
The new
masculino
champion
da cidade
will
de
show a
Ixtal.
very different side to Ixtal, far from the lavish palaces Keanu
Pra quem
grew up in.
queria que a Riot
So take a
expandisse
look
essa
at this art
cidade, tá aí,
teaser
né?
that the team working on
Parece que vai
put
ter mais um
together.
campeão pra
Oh my
cidade.
god, they're so adorable. Well, that's enough cuteness for now. So as promised, let's hear from Riot Foxon on the champion durability update and preseason.
Vamos aí. Pô, tá interessante, galera. Tô curtindo aqui, hein, mano.
Hey
Gameplay.
everyone, I'm Matthew Long Harrison.
E aí, Lang?
aka
Olha o
Riot
Lang aí,
Foxon,
mano. Sei lá
lead
como é que
game
pronuncia o nome
designer
dele.
on the Summers Rift team. We work on things like balancing the game, in-game systems like the durability update and items, and preseason.
Show de bola.
I've got a few things to cover today, so let's jump right into it. A few patches ago, we launched the champion durability update.
Aham.
Our goal was to increase the durability and reduce the damage and healing of every champion in League. We've been closely monitoring the results, and after some targeted adjustments, we're really happy with where the update landed. A lot of you have mentioned how much you like the update, and that it feels good to have fights last longer with more chances for skill expression. And we're glad that it helped make League feel fresher. That said, we don't have plans to make changes of this size outside of preseason in the future, unless it's really necessary. What we don't want is for huge changes like this to disrupt League's competitive integrity, especially in the middle of the season. Speaking of which, let's talk about our plans for preseason.
Provavelmente agora eles vão falar sobre aquilo que tinha vazado da jungle, né?
Similar to last year, we're making more targeted changes to various systems. Our multi-year goal is to bring everything in League up to modern standards before doing updates on the scale of Runes Reforged, Elemental Rift, or the item update again. So for this preseason, we're updating systems including communication and vision, making the jungle more exciting and accessible, and bringing back a familiar foe. Our communication system is showing its age, especially in comparison to some of our other games. So we're giving it some much needed attention with new features that'll make it easier to communicate with your team and walk away with the win. To that, we're expanding our in-game ping system to allow for better communication with your team. The current system only lets you share very basic communications, and while we appreciate your ingenuity with the limited pings you have, we wanted to give you more opportunity for clearer communication. The updated pings will include everything you already know and love, plus expanded vision options and a call to engage. We're also thinking about ways to emphasize pings with teammates, plan macro strategy for
eles vão mudar os
objectives,
pings, né?
and keep
Interessante.
track of where pings are on the map, even if they're off your screen. In addition to the changes to communication, we're making some small improvements to the vision system, as it's a bit outdated. It's not super clear that you can swap vision trinkets, and it's definitely not clear how you can best utilize them. To that, we're exploring ways to make vision trinkets more intuitive. You'll be able to see how many wards you have on the map, and preview where they'll go when placing them in wards.
Legal, isso vai ajudar bastante. Beleza, melhoraram ali a quantidade de wards que você pode colocar e tudo mais.
Is the jungle. We know it's often a highly
O
stressful
foco é na
role
selva o ano que vem,
heaps
né?
of knowledge to be baseline
Na
proficient.
precisa, no caso.
There's a lot riding on junglers, as they're often the backbone of the team's strategy, while sometimes getting unjustly flamed. So we're looking to make some changes to make jungling more intuitive, and to help alleviate some of its more painful parts. Our first change is improving buff sharing. Donating buffs to your laners is an important part of being a jungler, but it feels bad to lose the gold, experience, and bonuses they provide.
Exatamente.
We're exploring a bunch of things to make this more painless to junglers,
Obrigado.
like buffs leaving behind a little friend that also has a buff, and a few other potential directions.
Obrigado.
We're
Obrigado,
also looking
Lang.
at ways of improving jungle camp patience rules. The goal of this change is to make it so you don't get overly punished by accidentally pulling camps too far. You shouldn't have to know exactly what pixel to stand on to do red buff and raptors at the same time without one resetting. So we're making changes that will make it less punishing when that happens. We know some junglers like to hyper-optimize their clears, and we want that knowledge to be rewarded. We'll still keep unique, optimal clears for different champions, like Kayn starting raptors and Shaco doing whatever it is he does. All this said, we're not trying to make mastering jungle easier, but we do want to make it easier to start jungling. We still want you to be rewarded for taking the time to master your role and champions. There are some other improvements we're exploring for the jungle, but it's still too early to share more, so we'll check back in later.
Show. Show de bola. Falou bastante sobre mecânicas da selva.
The final
Interessante as coisas
preseason
que
change we want to talk about today
eu vi aqui.
is the long-awaited return of everyone's favorite Drake, the Chemtech Drake.
Dragão
While
Chemtech,
we're
né?
bringing Chemtech Drake back from the dead, she won't bring you back from the dead anymore. Instead, the new and improved Chemtech Soul grants more damage and damage reduction when you're low health.
Redução de dano quando você está com
And
pouca
when the
saúde.
Chemtech Drake takes over the rift, the plants on the map mutate and become empowered.
Olha só,
For example,
interessante.
Scry's Bloom will grant movement speed when moving towards revealed enemies, and Blast Cone will take you further than ever before, like from blue buff to mid lane. We still have other plans for preseason, including the usual updates and tweaks to items and runes.
Olha só, vocês
And we'll share
viram
more
as
information about our
mudanças
plans
ali?
for these, and everything we discussed today as we get close to
O Pistouro
preseason.
mudou a plantinha que dava
That's all I have
visão
to.
aprimorada por causa da
Thanks for
alma.
watching, and let us
Por
know
causa
what
da
you think
alma
about everything you
do
heard.
Dragão
I'll
Chemtech.
hand things back to
Interessante.
Reeve to say goodbye.
Thanks, Roxanne. So as you can see, we have a lot of exciting things in development. And as always, I've had a blast finally sharing all this cool stuff the team has been working on with all of you.
Legal, galera, tá parecendo
Wait.
interessante.
Uh-huh.
Ó, lá vem ele.
So I'm hearing that there is one last thing we forgot to show you all. You all remember the skin line you voted for at the beginning of the year, right? I think it was the Gothic skin line revamp.
É,
Our skins team
as
has
skins
been hard
góticas.
at work reimagining that skin
Eu tinha
line,
falado em
and
uns
they
vídeos
really wanna
atrás
share
que
a
eles
bit of it
poderiam
with you
mostrar.
now. So it's time for me to say goodbye, bye, and time for all of you to see some sweet concept art for the new
Da
Fright
Noite do
Night
Terror.
skin.
Bora ver quem vai receber. Caraca, olha o Draver aí, mano. Renata Glask, Urgot, Trundle, N. Sensacional, galera. Gostei demais desse roadmap. E, sinceramente, eu tenho que admitir pra vocês, eu tô até arrepiado porque eu tô empolgado literalmente por essas mudanças na jungle, tá? Teve bastante coisa, ele mostrou o novo Darkin. Então eu vou ver se eu faço um vídeo depois resumindo tudo pra vocês. Esse vídeo aqui é em específico trazer tudo com mais detalhe possível. A gente reagindo aqui pra ver o que vai vir no LoL. E a partir de agora, galera, vai ser vídeo atrás de vídeo, falando sobre novos campeões, falando sobre as mecânicas do jogo, então se preparem. E é isso aí, galera, espero que vocês tenham curtido o vídeo, deixe seu like, se inscreve, ativa o sininho pra você não perder mais nada. E qualquer novidade de LoL, eu trago aqui o mais rápido possível. Um abraço a todos, fique com Deus, até mais. Fui!